So when it comes to modifying objects, we have our modifier right over here. So what that means is if I click select, right, it's going to remove the asset library because I'm no longer placing, right? This was place mode. Now I'm in select mode. It's going to let me click on people. And you'll notice only the gray circles appear under the cars, not the people. So I need to switch back over to people mode, right? That's my gray circle. So let me go over here and get a better view of him. When you select an object, you're going to get a move gizmo right down here. I can click and drag to have free transform or move directly on an axis. So if you want them to only go front or back or side to side, that's what this guy is going to do. It's going to give you full control over which axes they go to. You even have these little squares here, which will move in two axes, right? So now I'm moving him side to side and up and down. And here is front and back, up and down as well. So you've got a couple different options. Generally, I do just use the free transform. But again, I have to point this stuff out because it might be useful for you. When you are moving your character, pay attention right here. The coordinates of them are actually moving as well. So if you don't want to use this gizmo, you could actually just type in a number here. And so notice how he's over there? That's because I put in a different value there. So let's do 110. And now he should be right over here. Okay, so you've got a couple different ways. All right, so every time you select an asset, what you're going to get are some tools to make selection and placement a little bit easier, and we'll talk about this later in the course. The layer settings, if you want to colorize them. So right now, since I've selected people, you can make them silhouettes. Let me show you on cars, and what that will do is if I click this, I can actually change the color of the car. So different assets will have different features, okay? Like here I can change the license plate or toggle the driver on and off, or even turn the car lights on, right? So you've got a couple different things that are going on here. So we were talking about just placing and moving, but you can also rotate and scale. So watch this. If I go over here and I click rotate, now my gizmo has changed, right? I've got three different coordinates to rotate, three different axes to rotate it on. I'm rotating the heading, and pay attention here. This is the same exact thing. So it's up to you if you want to go by the gizmo or if you want to go by the slider. Okay, pitch and our bank, right? And obviously we don't want the car doing this, so we can always hit undo and that will reset all that. And you can also just double click in here and reset it that way. Okay, so that's your rotate mode. And the last one is your scale mode. Okay, it's not going to look like anything, but if you click and drag, it's going to increase the scale, or you could do that here. So you see how I went from like 1 to 50 in no time? Basically, that's because of the increments. So let's say that's like way too extreme. If I hold down shift and then I start scrolling, see how much smoother that is? So that's a little tip for you, because sometimes I notice this is a little too sensitive. So that's where shift is going to come into play. Okay, so we've talked about moving, rotating, and scaling. Now, right over here, I placed, 10 of these guys. So let's actually delete them. So how would I do that? Why can't I select them? Think about that for a second. It's because I'm in the wrong mode. Okay, I got to switch back to people, and now I'm able to select and delete, right? So I've selected him. I can go right over here to delete, and I can click right here or click the little dot right there. We've got a couple different ways. So I actually have a bunch of these copies in the scene. So check this out. If I select him, and then I go right over here to select all identical objects, they're all selected. And now I can actually just go to delete, and I've got 4 of them, right there, that I can go and hit delete. Okay, so that's the basics of how we're going to modify objects. And this is true for imported models, the cars, the trees, the people. So I think it's definitely worth spending some time placing assets, moving them around, and just remembering that the button here is tied to the filter system. And let's just say, you find the filtering kind of annoying. You can actually just do this, and this will let you select all the categories. But you see how kind of crazy it looks? You've got all these different gray dots here. There's a lot, especially in a scene this large. So that's why the filters are kind of useful, because you can just focus on specific little things, right? There's only 2 dots here, as opposed to, the 20 right in this small area. So play around with placing objects, modifying them, and in the next video, we'll talk about how we're going to actually import our project into Lumion. So let's talk about how we're going to get our model into Lumion. So to get out of this example scene, if you go right over here to Home, we're going to go to Create New. And like I said earlier, there is no penalty for which mode you start with. I'm going to go with Plain Environment. That way I can show you how to build up the project. Let's click this.